everyone. Welcome to another edition of Fast Five Sports. I'm Griffin Demaray, joined by the singular co-host today, our stat king, Jacob Gallant. Jacob, how are we feeling?
Feeling good. We'll try to fill the dead space from Matt's absence as much as we can.
Much different today. Much different vibe today. But
probably not as heated, but
yeah, a lot of the energy is probably taken out.
But we got some fun stuff.
A lot of good stuff to go over. We got high school football, college football, Grizzlies season right around the corner, and college basketball, believe it or not, is right there too, which is kind of hard to believe. Like this time of year, October, you think of it's football season, but the NBA starts next week, and college basketball starts in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I've been catching a little bit of the preseason games, but also the WNBA finals has been awesome so far too.
The WNBA finals has been really good.
That shot Sabrina hit.
That was wild. That was wild.
That
All
was
right, we'll get into all of it. Let's start with Friday Football Fever. We got an awesome slate of games coming to you tonight. Starting with our game of the week, I will be there. It is MUS taking on Christian Brothers, a match they've been playing since 1894. Last year's game was won by MUS 21-7, but much different story this year. Christian Brothers coming in at 4-2, MUS at 2-5, but we also got Overton, Southwind, South Panola, Center Hill, Cordova, Collierville, Melrose, Ridgeway, and Hernando, Horn Lake. A lot of good things on the slate. I do think this game of the week, though, MUS and Christian Brothers, is going to be really interesting. This is a rivalry game they've been playing, like I said, hundreds of years now. And in rivalry games, especially in high school, I feel like anything can kind of happen. You know what I mean? Like, just, it's kind of like the Egg Bowl when I think about it. Like, no matter, records go out the door. That's what Coach Mark Chubb at MUS was telling me last week. All records for this game go out the door, which I'm sure MUS probably wants the record to go out the door. That'd be very helpful for them. But either way, I mean, Christian Brothers going to have a backup quarterback for the second week in a row. They beat Briarcrest last week, but backup quarterback, rivalry game. It's definitely going to be a bit of a toss-up.
Yeah, hopefully less chaotic. You want to bring up the Egg Bowl. Hopefully it's not as chaotic.
Yeah, hopefully a little less chaotic.
Unless you're into that sort of thing.
And then, yeah, looking at the rest of the slate, I mean, I just think there's going to be a bunch of really good games. I mean, Collierville, Cordova's won. Cordova's had a rough year, and Collierville's kind of a wagon right now. I mean, they've been that way since the beginning of the year, so I do think Collierville would dominate there. Southwood's been really good. Hernando, Horn Lake will be an interesting game. But yeah, we're going to have all of it tonight on Friday Football Fever. Tonight at 10, I'm going to have highlights from our game of the week, our Doc Holiday, run through the entire slate, so you don't want to miss that. You also don't want to miss the football playing Memphis Tigers. College football slate's going to be really good this week, too. A lot of really
back in action, interesting
games. You know what I mean? Last week, I think 2 weeks ago, you had all the wildness, the craziness of Tennessee and Alabama losing. And last week, I think a lot of people looked at the slate and said, oh, it's going to be a lot better. This week, there's Georgia and Texas, which is obviously the headliner that everyone's talking about. But I do think there are a lot of middle games that could be really tricky. I mean, LSU going to Arkansas.
That's not a place you want to go into right now.
I do not want to play Sam Pittman's boys right now. I don't think anybody does.
No. Let's take a look at our slate of games real quick here.
Yeah, we'll take a look at our local games. We start off. North Texas plays Memphis. That'll be at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium at 6:30 tomorrow night. We have Alabama, Tennessee, third Saturday in October.
That's gonna be a banger.
Watch TV. Texas A&M goes to Starkville to take on your boys in Mississippi State. And then we got LSU at Arkansas, like we were talking about. Let's start with Memphis, because this is a really interesting game for them. North Texas comes in at 5-1. Memphis comes in at 5-1. North Texas is a weird 5-1 though, because their one loss is to Texas Tech, and they got blown out. Like the doors blown out.
Yeah.
But
dominated.
You look at our other games, and it's like North Texas is a team where I look at it and you don't know if they're good or they're not good. They played UAB really close, and UAB so far this year has looked horrendous. So like, I don't know
one of the worst in the nation.
I don't know what that really says.
Yeah. I was looking into this Mean Green team a little bit earlier. We're not at the trivia section yet, but do you know how many times North Texas has won 10 games in a season?
I'm gonna go with 1.
Zero.
They've
never done it.
Either 1 or 0.
That was just surprising to me. This is not a historically great program. Second year under head coach Eric Morris. Yeah, I mean, if you look at their schedule for the year so far, it's been a lot of shootouts, a lot of high-scoring games. They scored 52 against Tulsa, 41 against Florida Atlantic, 44 against Wyoming. So they could put points on the board, which might be a little scary based on how Memphis's defense has looked at times this year. But yeah, this is one that Memphis pretty much needs to have.
Yeah, I mean,
not
like
one
we
they can afford to lose.
week, from this point on, they're all wins. But this is a really interesting point in their schedule, because if you look at it, start of the year, everyone was looking at that Florida State game. And then you had the game against Navy, the slip-off. And after that, it's the American Conference schedule, which throughout the years has slowly gotten worse and worse and worse as you've lost schools like SMU, you've lost all these different other schools. And now you just kind of have these weird, almost every game feels like a trap game until you get to Tulane at the end of the year. You know what I mean? Every game, and UTSA also has a pretty solid team this year, but there's games in there. You got UAB in there at some point. You got North Texas. It's just, I don't know, they're weird games where like they almost look like look-over spots, but for a team like Memphis, they can't look over anyone from this point on.
It's really just week to week. It's really, we got to win this one. Don't worry about next week because this one is the one that matters.
Which is where the American Conference might actually benefit them, because you're not really looking ahead to too many opponents, again, like I said, until probably Tulane, the last game of the year on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and so interesting, if you remember last year's game went right down to the wire between these two teams. North Texas had the lead with 47 seconds left. Memphis scores, ends up winning by 3 points, 45-42.
Shootout style,
That was,
like you were saying.
that was a heck of a game. And then the Tigers hold the all-time advantage 18-4. So not a team they usually lose to. 18-4 all-time.
But dude, you never know in this college football.
Against the Mean Green.
It has been crazy.
You really don't. I would expect to see a lot of points on the board.
Let's talk about points. Let's talk about Alabama, Tennessee, or maybe not points on what we've seen the past couple weeks. I think this one is all a question of which Alabama team you get. Do you get Alabama that played Georgia, or do you get the last 2 weeks Alabama that has lost to Vanderbilt and should have lost to South Carolina? That's the burning question. Tennessee, I mean, world beaters for the first 5 games, lose at Arkansas, and then look shaky at best against a bad Florida team last week.
A game they probably should have lost.
Yeah, they definitely should have lost. Yeah, but I mean, hey, take what you can get.
Yeah, I think if the Vols were to lose this game, it's probably momentum is not looking great.
No, but they can. We remember what happened last time Alabama went to Tennessee.
Right. No, I think this game could totally go either way. Alabama's looked shaky. Tennessee's looked shaky the last few weeks, but we know both of these teams are really talented. They have the capability to beat pretty much anyone in the nation, but you really don't know who's showing up. I don't know what
you're getting. You have no idea.
We on this show we were talking so highly about Nico the first few weeks of the season. He looked awesome, and he really hasn't looked great the last 2-3 games. Really the three games, because the Oklahoma win, their defense kind of carried him in that one.
Yeah, and the thing is with Alabama, that defense since halftime of that Georgia game has just been awful. Vanderbilt went for 450 yards. South Carolina was throwing around the yard too, especially down the end of the game. So this is the game where I think Tennessee can really get some momentum here and maybe propel themselves forward, because if they can get that offense going, that Alabama defense has looked extremely vulnerable.
They're really going to have to come out of the gate quick. They're going to have to put points on the board right away, because if that offense gets stagnant again like it's been the last few weeks, I don't think they're just going to be able to flip a switch and just turn that on instantly against an Alabama defense.
Even though they've lost, Bama's offense has still looked fairly decent. Yeah. They struggled a little bit against Carolina last week. Milroe wasn't great, but it's Vandy. They still put up 40 points. It's usually enough to beat Vandy, but
and then pretty much any other.
Much any other team.
But Tennessee's defense has looked pretty steady the last few weeks. I'm kind of more concerned about where their offense is at and if they can put enough points on the board.
But again, my point comes down to, all right, Tennessee's defense has looked good, but it's the same question as earlier in the year. What does the competition look like?
Yeah.
I mean, they
That's
played
true.
in conference Arkansas, who's not really known for their offense this year. They played Florida, who plays two quarterbacks for some reason 90% of the time, which I thoroughly don't understand.
That's the Billy Napier system.
And
man.
then they played Oklahoma, who benched their quarterback
Yeah.
after halftime and brought in a true freshman. So they haven't really played an offense that is explosive like this.
No, that's nobody on the
Alabama's
level of Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama's a completely different offense than Tennessee has seen all year. But to the same token, I don't know. It's going to be very. I mean, this game's always awesome.
Yeah.
Something always happens.
Yeah, I think no matter what, I think we could expect a good game.
Fireworks.
I don't think either team is gonna blow one out.
No.
But yeah,
Moving to blowouts, let's talk about one that didn't happen last week that we were all expecting. Mississippi State hung around with Georgia.
had me in the first half there, but
They
okay.
did.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, I think Michael Van Buren Jr. is a guy.
Yeah.
He looked really good. They're building momentum, which is weird to say when you're losing games, but they just played the absolute hardest 2-game stretch you can possibly play.
Yes. And you have
At Texas and at Georgia.
And you have a first-year head coach with a true freshman quarterback play.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be growing pains, and there's going to be things that need to be worked on.
I would not be stunned at all if they were able to beat Texas A&M in this game. It's in Starkville. A&M's kind of feeling the momentum right now. They might be underestimating the Mississippi State team that their record doesn't look good, but they've been playing hard. And the offense has looked pretty steady. The defense is shaky. That's better than it was to start the year off. But I think they can put up some points on this Texas A&M team. I would not be surprised if we saw an upset in Starkville this week.
This is an extremely close game down to the wire 100%. Mm-hmm. This is one of those games, too, where if you watch, you'll first turn on the TV and you'll have no idea which team's who. They have the exact same colors and wear like the exact same uniforms, basically. So
Yeah.
I've had that issue in the past when I watch these teams play, but I totally agree. I think this is A&M stomped Missouri. Was A&M on bye last week? I think they were.
Yes, A&M's on a bye. Was on a bye.
A&M stomped Missouri 2 weeks ago. On bye could be a look ahead spot. I mean, I don't think their schedule's too bad down the stretch. I know they have Texas at the very end of the year, but this is going to be a very tricky game for A&M because if Mississippi State can just get some things going, capture something that they had in that second half of that Georgia game, they're going to give A&M all the trouble they want and some more.
I think if not this week, I think this team is going to pull off an upset at some point at the end of the season.
Let's get it out. Let's get it out before the Egg Bowl. Let's get it out before the.
I know you would appreciate getting that out of the system, but hey, you might start building some momentum after getting one. So maybe you don't want it.
That
to
is
get out of the
true.
way. Maybe you just hope it never comes.
Let's talk about the Hogs again. And LSU. I mean, just gut wrenching. But LSU goes to Arkansas in what is another tricky game for them.
Yeah.
LSU, in a lot of games, has gotten by the skin of their teeth. They did it again last week against Ole Miss in a game they should have lost the entire time. They pull out a win. Now they have to go to Arkansas. I believe it's a night game as well. So that place will be rocking once again.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how Arkansas. They were on a bye last week, right? Yeah, it's really going to be interesting to see what they've done since that Tennessee win to build on that momentum. I mean, if they win, they're pretty much going to a bowl game at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much shows it. And for what the expectations were coming into this season, everyone calling for Sam Pittman's job, just getting to a bowl game.
He's done a heck of a job. He's done a heck of a job.
And if you look at Arkansas' schedule, they host every team like this, but they had Tennessee at home, LSU at home, they have Ole Miss at home, and Texas at home.
Yeah, that's brutal.
I mean, those are preseason for top, 15 teams?
Yeah.
I mean, you get them all at home, so that's a bonus, but I mean, their schedule is just a gauntlet. And they played at Oklahoma State to start the year. So
yeah, I mean,
to kind of do what they were doing, it's very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, maybe LSU comes in and they just kind of take care of the business as the more talented team. But the way Arkansas is playing, I feel like we're on upset alert again.
And I think this could be a big letdown spot for LSU. You storm the field, you win in overtime. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And then this is the letdown.
A loss would pretty much knock you out of the playoff as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're on the brink of it as well with losses to USC, which is not aging well. as the season
No,
goes on.
not aging well at all. They've been kind of a disaster.
Ole Miss is on bye, thank God. Don't have to watch the misery anymore. Last week was just, I mean, Matt said it best when I was talking to him about it. You can't, when you're on the road in Death Valley, in a place you haven't won in years, you can't not score on drives.
Yep.
Early in the game, Trey Harris drops the touchdown. Drops an 80-yard touchdown right through his hands. You miss the field goal, then you go for it on 4th and 1 the next drive on the LSU 10-yard line and don't get it. That's 17 points that you just left on the board, and it's 0-0 at the end of the first. I mean, it's just, you can't come back from that. You really can't. I mean, you're just letting them back into the game, and you knew at a certain point that that offense was going to click, and it finally did.
It's like time and time again, no matter how LSU looks, it's like Death Valley is just never safe. LSU could look horrible, and you'd go into Death Valley and go, "Oh no, this might be a bad time."
I mean,
because you really,
half, they looked terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, they looked. Nussmeier threw an interception off his own offensive lineman's helmet, and Ole Miss still couldn't score. It was unbelievable how just the game was being gifted to Ole Miss. It looked like, and they just refused to take it. And LSU, once again, finds a way to win in Death Valley, which is very impressive.
You really just can't make any mistakes in Death Valley at night. It's a monster in itself. And now, Ole Miss probably has to win out.
And that might not even be enough.
And that's, I mean, a win over Georgia is probably going to be enough to get the committee looking at them. But I guess it probably depends on how the rest of the landscape
some things
holds
to fall your
up.
way. You probably would want a team like Notre Dame to lose one here. You would need A&M to lose one at some point. Just teams in that tweener mix. Clemson could lose another, and that could help. But at this rate, I mean, I don't even think we can talk about winning out with Ole Miss. I mean, I don't see it in the cards. I see a loss at home to Georgia. I see a loss on the road at Arkansas. Like, you're staring down the bullet of 8-4.
Yeah. Speaking of teams not wanting to go into Arkansas, I know it's historically not been
historically another place. Maybe we're just not good anywhere. Let's move on from that.
That's a bit of the curse.
Talk college hoops. We were just talking about it's right around the corner, man. Memphis coming into the year, 0 votes in the top 25.
Were you surprised by that?
I was, but I wasn't. I mean, yes, the roster is stacked. You brought in a loaded transfer class again. There are plenty of college basketball writers. I know John Rothstein's one of them, has him at 45 preseason. I think that's where a lot of people have them falling into, somewhere in that 35 to 45 range. And I think it does have to do with the collapse last year and how things just fell apart, how the wheels came off. This was a top 10 team that was then losing 3 games in a row on a Texas road trip by 30 every game. So I do think the committee has looked at that and said, I don't think we can give them the kind of pub that maybe they deserve. But hey, they're gonna get a test week 1 with Missouri. We know Penny always schedules crazy out of conference, and this year you kind of have to. Again, kind of like we talked about in football, the American has very much fallen, I don't want to say fallen behind, but kind of taken a step back in terms of basketball with Dusty May leaving FAU. They're not nearly the program that they were last year going in. But that being said, Memphis was still not projected to win the conference preseason.
Right. And you might be in a spot where you kind of have to win it.
Yeah, this is going to be a one-bid league, probably.
Depending on how things go.
Depending on how things shake out non-conference, this is probably a one-bid league. I think if you're a Tigers fan, you do like what you saw this past week against North Carolina in the St. Jude tip-off game.
Yep.
They looked good. They came out really hot. Yes, they couldn't keep up with North Carolina's star power, but North Carolina's a top 5 team in the country this year.
Yeah.
Now, one downside was that was without R.J. Davis. So you can imagine how good North Carolina is probably going to be going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think really you just wanted to show that you could compete.
Yeah.
And that you were kind of on that similar plane as them.
And Penny even said after the game that they weren't showing anything. They didn't run any sets. They didn't run anything crazy.
Yeah.
They just kind of went up and down.
It was still a preseason game.
Yeah,
so.
just kind of feel things out. PJ Haggerty looked good. Tyrese Hunter, the 2 big transfers from this past year from Tulsa and Texas, looked really good. So I think you have to like what you have there. Again, it's Penny, so it's going to be all transfers and a new team every year. So,
yeah.
But you do got to like there. One team that was in the preseason top 25, Ole Miss. Kind of surprising. And the Hogs. Hogs came in at, I believe, 15. Ole Miss
And the
came
Vols
in
are
at
there?
24. Vols, I believe, were 7? That's not, no, like 12 or 13. There was
Somewhere
a stack
around
of
there.
SEC teams,
Yeah.
11, 12,
Around there,
13. SEC came in with 9 teams in the top 25.
I was a little surprised to see Ole Miss on there too. Are you feeling
I mean,
optimistic about?
Yeah, I mean, it's
their
Beard,
roster
and I
this year?
think he's a top 20 coach in college basketball. Yes, he has his off the court issues, but on the court, he's a tremendous coach. He brought in, similar to Penny, a phenomenal transfer class. A lot of guys coming from schools a little lower that are ready to make that big jump. So the SEC is just going to be a gauntlet this year in hoops.
Yeah.
It's going to be an absolute gauntlet. You have 9 to 10 tournament teams, in my opinion. And, I mean, good for Memphis. They play 2 of them. Don't they play Mississippi State this year as well?
Yes, they
They
do.
have State and Ole Miss.
And
they
Memphis.
have Alabama in a scrimmage, don't they? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe
There's
so.
a scrimmage coming
yeah.
up against Bama, too. So,
Yeah, I mean, Mississippi State was a team I kind of thought they might have snuck into the rankings, but they did receive some votes. I can't remember exactly how
Yeah.
many, but that's a good roster as well.
I mean, Chris
Bring
James
back,
had them rolling last year.
yeah, I really like what he's building there. Bringing back Josh Hubbard, who was great last year. Yeah, I'm excited to see that. Those will be really interesting tests for Memphis. Playing kind of the Mid-South schools, it's fun that we get a little bit of mingling between the Mississippi schools and Memphis this year.
I mean, it's obvious what Penny's trying to do. He's trying to make sure that, God forbid, you blow up in conference a little bit. Maybe not as bad as last year, but say you lose 2 or 3 in conference, you have that fallback of, say you beat Mississippi State in December, say you beat Clemson in November.
Yep.
Those wins can just bolster you up a little bit so that if you, God forbid, you don't win the conference, you do have that little extra wiggle room to try and get in. Last thing on college basketball, I cannot wait to watch Arkansas this year.
Yeah,
It's
they were
gonna be
really fun last year.
So crazy to watch, man. I mean, it's going to be unbelievable. Cal, just in a different color, not in blue, is just going to feel so weird. But they're going to be loaded. I mean, he had the Dion quote, basically. I'm bringing my luggage in. Because he brought dudes with him. And they're going to be very good.
That's going to be surreal. Yeah, just seeing him not wearing blue is going to be so odd.
It's going to feel wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it's not supposed to be like that.
Yeah. And Arkansas has been kind of one of those plucky teams that can kind of make a little bit of noise in March.
Oh, yeah.
And so obviously adding arguably one of the best coaches, in modern history.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a really fun
I mean,
team
if you
to
remember
watch.
back in the Musselman days, they had, what was it? It was a 4-year stretch where I think they went Sweet 16, Elite 8, Elite 8, Sweet 16.
Yep.
So, I mean, they are very good in the postseason every year. Another quick shout out, Tony Bennett, Virginia head coach, suddenly retired today. Kind of weird, crazy timing. He said in his press conference today he didn't like the direction the game was going in and just said, I don't think it's for me anymore.
Do you think he's kind of feeling the Nick Saban effect as well?
Maybe.
Similar.
Because he's one of those
reasoning?
coaches who's just been doing it for years. National title winner. He won 3 Coach of the Year awards. It's just interesting for a guy like that to just bow out.
I kind of
2.5 weeks before the season.
Assuming that it is kind of like an NIL deal thing that he's got going on, I kind of respect just bowing out and leaving, as opposed to the guys who just complain about it nonstop, like Dabo Sweeney. Exactly what I was gonna say.
I mean, you're right. You're right.
I almost respect just going. You know what? This isn't for me. I'm out of here. All respect.
Haven't you left your team just out to
Oh
dry
no,
a
the
little
timing.
bit?
The timing is terrible.
I mean, we started the season.
No,
weeks, and they're gonna have a new coach, and now the transfer portal opens up.
That's
left,
different.
the
That's
portal-
different. He should not abandon his team right before the season.
And he even said, he was like, "Oh, I was thinking about it in the off season." Like, dude, you probably should have just done it like weeks ago.
You should have done this in like April or May.
Yeah. I mean,
no,
crazy.
man,
The wild part about it is that now the portal opens for 30 days for those players. The season starts in 20. So the portal is going to be open for those players.
And it's almost to the point too where the players on that team who may want to leave are kind of in a bad spot now, because a lot of the top teams in the country are not going to want to just take on a new player at this point in the season.
A lot of them don't have slots open. I know two
Right.
teams that do have slots open. Memphis and Arkansas are both coaches Penny and Cal said
I bet Penny is on the phone.
we
already.
are leaving a roster spot open. Do not be surprised if Penny makes a phone call.
I think he probably already has.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's a lot of guys on that roster.
I'm sure that thing's been ringing.
Big things. Stay on hoops. Final preseason game for the Grizzlies tonight. Taking on the Miami Heat. I'm sure we will not see much in terms of starters playing or anything like that.
I have seen chatter that Jaw may get some minutes tonight. I don't know if that is confirmed or not.
He might just try to be working him back.
But
because he hasn't played since the rolling of his ankle.
Right. It is an interesting philosophy because I was watching Nuggets and Timberwolves last night, and Minnesota did not play any of their starters. They went full bench rotation, and the Nuggets played all of their starters.
Really?
Heavy minutes. And when I tell you that Luka Garza was outplaying Nikola Jokic last night, I'm not kidding. Luka Garza, 27 points. Nikola Jokic looked really sluggish, like he did not want to be there, which is his default, but he also had, I think, like 2 points.
Dude barely wants to be when the season's actually in session.
So it almost felt like the players were revolting against Mike Malone for making them play so many minutes in a preseason game. And, like, the Timberwolves bench was so energized against it. But, yeah, just to say, I don't really know what Taylor Jenkins' strategy is looking at going into tonight because those are two coaches on different ends of the spectrum that I just noticed last night.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some starters get some action tonight, especially.
Some dudes too. I mean, I've seen Jimmy play a couple games now. Bam has played a little bit. I don't know. I just feel like one game before the season, just shut it down. I mean, I could see Ja maybe getting a couple of minutes because you want to get him back just in a game that isn't a scrimmage, just a little bit. But even that, I just feel like with this team, let's just get everyone to the finish line, please.
There is validity to that because you just had so many injury problems.
Just like in bubble wrap and just get them in Utah. Like at this point, like just get them there.
Just to avoid like the bad juju of doing it.
Yeah. First game against the Jazz Wednesday in Utah. Then they have another road game. They come back home. First home game is next Saturday against the Magic. Should be a great crowd. I'm thinking Saturday is going to be pretty electric in the Forum.
Yeah, the season opener at FedEx Forum always is. And Orlando is not a pushover anymore. That's a good team.
Yeah.
We were talking about them last week.
Yeah.
Paolo is a stud. They've got a lot of guys that just play gritty defense. A lot of guys that can, they're working on the three-point shooting. They added Caldwell Pope, who can kind of do both. That's going to be a fun crowd.
That's going to be two teams with higher expectations than I think most people think coming into this year. Sounds weird, but hear me out. Again, both of those teams probably projected to finish fifth-ish in their conferences. Grizzlies and
Interestingly enough, I don't know if you saw this. The Athletic put their playoff projections out earlier this week. The Grizzlies were not in the top 8. That very much surprised me.
I just don't know how that's possible. I mean, you look at rosters up and down, I just don't see how that's possible. Maybe they're assuming everyone gets hurt again, but I mean, I don't see how that's possible.
Let me find exactly. I know the Lakers were the 8th seed.
Oh, my God.
But yeah, it was just kind of bizarre seeing the Grizzlies left off.
Yeah, I mean, again, the West is loaded. That no one is fighting that argument that the West is so deep in terms of talent, but I just see the Grizzlies roster as being a step ahead of some of these teams. Like the Grizzlies have a much better roster up and down the Lakers.
And also, I mean, the Clippers with Kawhi Leonard's injury, that Clippers team sans Kawhi Leonard, I don't like it.
Well, have you seen?
I don't like
it. Is Kawhi Leonard's not playing? So with Kawhi Leonard out of the Clippers, they are what? They're not a playoff team.
No.
By any means.
Not
They're
at all.
probably much, much lower, probably not even a play-in team at that point. Guess who has their first-round pick this year?
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City Thunder. Could you imagine a world in where the Clippers tank this year?
That's another thing. Like the Thunder just have too many picks. They can't keep all of these picks and just use them because they don't have the roster spots.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah.
If there's a chance that pick's a top 3 pick, and the lottery comes around, I'm just saying, Cooper Flag in a Thunder jersey.
But where
it's
do
too early.
But where do you put him? Where? How does he fit into that lineup?
Oh my gosh, you put him. You do Shea, Lou Dort, Chet, Cooper Flag, Jalen Williams. That's a loaded.
I mean, it's loaded. Yeah. So, the Athletic has the Grizzlies at 11th in the West. They're projecting them to go 40-42, which I really don't understand the logic. They've got the Rockets at 10. I like the Rockets. I
just don't think. I
certainly don't think they're better than the Grizzlies.
No.
They've got the Kings at 9. I like the Kings a lot. That's a loaded West. I would put the Kings higher.
I kind of have the Kings in my personal opinion.
Yeah. I know they had the Lakers 8.
That's just a whole.
I know everything that comes with the Lakers, and it's still LeBron James and Anthony Davis, but I'm not high on that roster.
I don't see it either. I see them as a low play-in team.
I'm not high on that roster. It was weird to me because I really thought the consensus among a lot of the NBA sphere is that the Grizzlies are going to bounce back because that roster is so talented.
Yeah.
But to see stuff like that, and that's just one example of the Athletic, it's interesting to see the different projections for the Grizzlies. Like, I've seen projections where they're like a 2 seed or, down all the way to 11, which it's just kind of speaks to how strong the West is.
Yeah, and how
because
basically anything could happen.
There's going to be a really good team that doesn't make it in.
I mean, there has to be. I mean, it depends what you think of a really good team. The Lakers are a really good team.
So if we're considering locks for like Oklahoma City, Minnesota, Denver, Dallas, then we're looking at one of like New Orleans, Sacramento, Memphis. Like one of these teams is not going to make it. You know what I mean? Or they'll be the 10th and just get knocked out right away.
Hey, it's going to be.
They're all really good teams.
It's going to be a heck of a year in the West. For sure. You got another thing you wanted to look at?
Yeah, I just want to hate on the ESPN rankings real quick.
All right.
So the ESPN put out their top 100 players for the season.
Always a fun list.
There's 4 Grizzlies on the list. I kind of want to go in reverse order, and I want to get your thoughts on some of this.
All right.
So the reason I want to go in reverse order is because this is kind of the one I agree with. So they've got Ja Morant at 20. Okay. I think that's pretty valid. About right. I think that's a good spot for him. Just above him is Tyrese Maxey, who I know you're not going to disagree with.
I mean, that's strictly based off of last year. That's strictly based off of they don't know if Ja's going to come back and be the same player.
Yeah, I mean, they're projecting as for the season, but right. I mean, Bam Adebayo, I'm not taking him over Ja. I get where they're going.
He's good, but every year I see Bam Adebayo in these rankings as a top 15 player. And I'm like, yes, he's a good defender. On offense, what does he do?
He's more of a complimentary guy.
You know what I mean? He can't lead a team. I look at top 15, top 20 guys. I think they're guys that can lead a team to the playoffs or lead a team on a run. Bam Adebayo's not leading a team. He's the second option on his own team, maybe third.
Yeah. And so, I mean, as far as guards, they've got Donovan Mitchell above Ja. I kind of buy that. Tyrese Halliburton, I don't know if I buy him above Ja, but I get it. I get it.
I mean,
after last season, I get why you would put him there. And then, so, I mean, it's not perfect, but I think Ja at 20 is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I guess the other ones will not.
The rest of the list.
Okay.
Shout out Herb Jones at 97, just outrageously low. Just what are we doing there? So we've got Marcus Smart at 83. How do you feel about Marcus Smart at 83?
Well, I mean, you just told me Herb Jones is at 98. I think Herb Jones is a much better player.
I do
Marcus
too,
Smart at
but
this point in his career.
I think Smart at 83 is fair. There wasn't a ton to go off of last year. Obviously, former Defensive Player of the Year. So they've got him above C.J. McCollum, which I think is interesting.
I mean, McCollum's definitely regressed.
Yeah. They've got him above Lou Dort.
That's,
I might take Lou
that's a
Dort
tough
over
one for
Marcus
me
Smart at
to
this
get
point in
along
their
with.
careers.
I just look at Lou Dort. He's younger, quicker, more athletic, can do more offensively,
Yeah.
I think, too.
He's kind of a spark plug. He's kind of like a young Marcus Smart was
They're very
in
similar
a way.
teams.
So we've got Mitchell Robinson above Marcus Smart. I don't think I would
That's
take Mitchell Robinson over
egregious.
Marcus Smart.
Thank God Matt's not here.
Miles Turner, I think, is better.
That's fair.
Jeremy Grant, I think, is
Fair.
better. Fred VanVleet, he's got limitations, but I think that's fine.
Yeah.
So overall, I mean, I think I'm okay with Smart at 83.
I think you move him down a little bit into the 90s probably, but then
Yeah.
again, you don't know what he's going to be. That's another thing. You just don't know what he's going to look like coming into this year.
Yeah, and he hasn't had a ton of experience playing next to Ja, which is really the
No,
question.
which is really what's going to gel this group.
So we've got Desmond Bane at number 60. In a vacuum, I think Bane at 60 is fine. But some of these players
Give me the
around
kicker.
here.
Who's around him?
First of all, Josh Hart at 61. What are we doing?
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
I love Josh Hart. He's one of my favorite players. I love his game. But the 61st best player,
For a guy who just
a guy who doesn't really provide a lot on offense. Again, I love Josh Hart. Love his game, but what are we doing there? Anyway,
once again, if Matt were here, we'd be fighting to death right now.
so we've got Alex Caruso a spot above Desmond Bane.
Ugh.
That's close. I'm probably taking Bane.
Again, I think this is all just the same thing. It's just, I think there's short-term memory loss in the NBA when it comes to this team. People forget what these players were like when they were healthy and playing well.
Yeah, Bane made it felt like Bane made a huge leap last year.
Yeah.
And they've got him a spot higher than he was in 2023.
Yeah, and below guys like Caruso, it's just.
Kobe White is a spot above Caruso. I think I'm taking Bane over Kobe.
I am. Keep going.
Darius Garland. Garland, the potential is there, but it feels like a bad fit next to Mitchell.
Yeah.
I do love Darius Garland.
I like his game. He's quick. He can shoot.
Yeah.
Great passer. But I just don't know.
Arguably more egregious than the Herb Jones at 97 is Derek Lively at 56. What in the world are we doing? If you told me you get Derek Lively or Desmond Bane, I'm taking
I
no
don't think I
time
can
to think
answer
about
fast
it.
enough.
Who is building a team around Derek Lively before Desmond Bane?
I mean, Derek Lively is just like he's just a not 3-and-D, he's just a rebounder. He's a rebounder and dunker.
Uh-huh.
That's it.
They weigh so heavily into last year's playoffs because Lively was
Yeah.
good in the playoffs, but in the regular season he was good, but like better than Darius
Better than-
Garland and
yeah.
Desmond Bane.
He's not 50s good. I can tell you that much. He's the same player as Herb Jones, except he has 3 inches on him. And Herb Jones, I think, does more.
Yes, I think he absolutely does more. So a spot above that is where we get to Jaren Jackson Jr.
One spot above Derek Lively?
Right. So
man.
Triple J dropped. He was 31 in last year's ranking. He dropped to 55. So obviously last year he was coming off the Defensive Player of the Year. But I mean, there was nothing that really regressed about his game.
No, not at
In
all.
the
I mean,
year.
I think it was just the issue of he was just asked to do so much more.
Right.
I think that's where I don't think he had the best percentages throughout the year, but that's just because, I mean, dude had to take 30 shots a game.
Right.
Like, he
And-
literally had to. There was nothing else he could do. And so many times it was basically just him running ISO from the top of the key, getting double teamed every play.
And we already had enough as evidence that wasn't his best usage.
No.
As soon as we got Ja, it was like, okay, Ja's the number one guy.
Exactly.
But Jaren Jackson is a fine number two
I think
option.
next year this is all going to change.
So they've got him below Şengün. I like Şengün a lot. I think it's maybe too early to put him above Jaren Jackson Jr. R.J. Barrett is absolutely
That's
not better than
egregious.
Jaren
That
Jackson
is so
Jr.
egregious.
But no.
That is
Under
so
no
egregious.
circumstances is R.J. Barrett a
what
better
are we-
player than Jaren Jackson Jr.
This is why I don't take any stock in these lists. They do the NFL one every year too, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing here?
And then to round out the 50s, we have Franz Wagner and OG Anunoby. I mean,
man.
I can buy Franz. The potential is there.
OG is what he is.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think Jaren provides more offensively than OG does.
And is a better defender than both.
Yeah, I mean, he won Defensive Player of the
he's a
Year,
better
and those
defender
guys
than
did.
both and has more offense than two, so he should.
I love Franz's game too.
Which is then in turn he should be ahead of both of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It feels like they could have moved Triple J up. I don't really understand the logic behind some of that.
No.
Especially,
but-
RJ Barrett, just no.
I mean, that's all gonna change next year when the team has a great season and everything's gonna move around. I don't think Jaren's gonna be worse than RJ Barrett this year. So
Maybe we can get a fifth player onto the list.
yeah, maybe Edie finds
maybe
his way onto
Edie
the list
will
next year.
make his way onto the list.
Let's talk about the baseball game of the year last night.
That was electric.
That was nuts. Guardians Yankees. Game 3, must have for the Guardians. You needed it,
Yep.
or else you were just done. You can't go down 3-0. Obviously, everyone
Yep.
knows that. But Guardians up 3-1 in the 8th. Back-to-back homers from the Yankees. They get a sac fly, 5-3. Big Christmas. Feliz Navidad hits the crazy 2-run bomb. Sends the place into a frenzy, and then Guardians win it in extras. With another bomb.
Back against the wall. That was incredible. Just right off the bat, when David Fry hit that homer, he knew it was gone.
And you could hear the roar. There was that video going around.
Yes.
We saw it from outside
That
the
was
stadium,
awesome.
looking in, and just the roar with the fireworks. Oh my god,
That was awesome.
that was unbelievable stuff.
Incredible game and an equally bad game from the NL side. Dodgers just kind of smoked the Mets last night.
Yeah, rough night for Grimace and the boys. Rough night. For
Mookie
Grimace
Betts
and the
is
boys.
just ridiculous.
I know Tani
yeah.
hitting another bomb.
So, I mean, starting to accept the fact that it's probably going to be Yankees and Dodgers World Series. I know a lot of people are not interested in that, but man, those are two offenses with a lot of punch.
Yeah, I think the Mets just got. They just can't keep up. It's that simple. I mean, the Mets have a good lineup, 1 through 4, but then you get to 5, and you're like, who's helping me? They have no depth at the bottom of that lineup. I mean,
Yeah.
again, Lindor, Alonso have been great this postseason, and so has Vientos has been fantastic. But after that, it's like, where are we going?
Yeah.
And the Dodgers, just 1 through 9, have dudes just raking nonstop.
Yeah. If you put a lineup together just with that many dudes that just mash the ball, like,
I'd be shocked if that series goes
you know,
after the next game.
I think we were both worried about the Dodgers pitching going into the playoffs. I mean, when you could put up enough runs, it really doesn't
It doesn't
matter. And
If you're
all
scoring
their
10
guys are
runs
hitting right now.
consistently, you're going to win.
All
games.
their guys are hitting right now.
I think
yeah.
the Dodgers are going to dominate that. NFL Week 7, a little bit of movement, right?
Couple big trades this
Couple
week.
big trades. Devontae Adams goes back to Aaron Rodgers because, hey, let's just run it back again, right? They said last
that.
dance with Green Bay and lost in the divisional round, so maybe they'll last dance it again and miss the playoffs this time. But
Yeah, it's another one. It's another. It just feels like a panic move. You don't know how long you got Aaron Rodgers around.
yeah.
Yeah, they're just pushing all the chips in. They're
I
they're
mean,
doing pretty
he's-
much everything
he's
they can.
yelling at the sideline. He's yelling at the receivers. It's just a mess. It looks like right now.
That I mean, that's yeah. That when
And I just don't know if Devontae Adams fixes that mess.
Aaron Rodgers is one of those guys when things are going poorly, all of that becomes magnified.
Yes.
He yells at the young receivers when they don't catch the ball. He yells at the coaching staff when the offense can't move the ball. And that's just part of who he is, and that's part of what you get with Aaron Rodgers. And it doesn't matter if you're winning.
Nope.
But they're not winning.
They're not.
So it's all magnified.
Exactly. And staying in the AFC East, Amari Cooper goes to the Bills. It's amazing. After that game, I think both teams saw that they could not move the ball as well as they wanted to.
Yeah.
I think Buffalo really wanted a receiver. I mean, Buffalo was going into the year with what? Shakir as their number one option.
Yeah.
I think they thought Keon Coleman would progress more, but he has not done anything.
Yeah, I love the Amari Cooper trade for them. They really needed a number one. They didn't really replace Stephon Diggs. And not that Cooper is on Diggs' level, but I think it's a good enough replacement. They really just needed a number one guy.
They did.
And,
I mean, if you watch that game, Alan, if that Monday night game, Aaron Rodgers was getting angry because he just kept missing guys. And he wasn't on the same page with Mike Williams and Garrett Wilson. But Josh Allen was just throwing to Ray Davis,
Yep.
Dalton Kincaid, and Dawson Knox. I don't think I saw a receiver make a catch all night.
Yeah.
So he obviously needed some sort of help. So he's got it now. We'll see kind of what that does going forward. I look at that AFC East, I see the Bills kind of just running away with it from here.
Yeah, especially with Tua out, the Dolphins aren't really in a spot to contend with them.
Dolphins are down to what, 2-5 now?
Yeah.
The Jets are also
It's been real
2-5?
ugly.
Right?
It's been real ugly for several AFC East teams this year.
And the Patriots, I mean, Drake May looked all right in his start, but it's just like
They're not going anywhere.
You're not
So,
helping him,
anything on the schedule standing out to you this week?
so.
I know there's one that I'm looking towards.
What is it?
Predictably, but I think this is the best matchup of the week. Packers Texans.
Yeah.
Those are two offenses who have been really stellar lately. Texans are missing Nico Collins, but still C.J. Stroud, Stephon Diggs, they're able to move the ball. And two defenses that can hang. The Packers are forcing a lot of turnovers this year, giving up some points, but they're able to make the big play when it counts, and that offense looked electric last week. They've got all those receivers working, so I'm really excited to see what those two teams do.
Yeah, we also have the greatest game of the year actually going on in London this week. We have the Patriots playing the Jags.
Miss.
I don't know what London did to deserve that, but that's just...
They know what they did.
They know what they did, you're right. You also got Chiefs-Niners.
Oh, right. Yeah, the Super Bowl rematch.
Super Bowl rematch, 325. Weird game, because the Niners have not been what they were billed to be so far this year. So interesting to see if they bounce back. Kansas City has just been doing Kansas City things. And, it's just been interesting for them. We also got really interesting one on Monday, Ravens at Bucks. I don't know. It's tricky.
Yeah.
Because the Ravens have gotten so much better in the last 3 weeks. They look great now.
Yeah.
And the Buccaneers are kind of going in the opposite direction, it seems like. The Buccaneers smoked the Eagles, and they beat the Lions in Detroit. And since then, it's just kind of... they beat the Saints last week, but I don't know. I don't take too much
Everybody's
stock into
beating
that.
the Saints lately. Not to mention last night's game. That was
that's
ugly.
disgusting.
I'm looking forward to the Chiefs and Niners. The Chiefs are kind of making do with, it feels like they're missing a few pieces here, and they're still making it work. And the Niners, really the big piece that they're missing is McCaffrey, and Jordan Mason has been playing excellent, but it still feels like something's missing there,
I think we said 2 weeks ago the year is 2024, and Juju Smith-Schuster had 10 catches in a game.
Unreal.
So, it just shows what the Chiefs are doing with very, very limited resources.
Yeah, and it was week one. We were all wowed by Xavier Worthy, and he really hasn't done a ton since.
Well, I think now that Rashid Rice is out, Worthy's probably getting a lot more attention.
Yeah.
Because besides him, it's Juju and Kelsey, so.
Yeah.
Gonna make it work, but it's gonna be a good slate. Want to round it out with some trivia?
Let's do it. All right, so...
It's just me, so it's gonna be rough.
Well, no. I got us one to work together.
Right,
if you want to use that keyboard to your right over there. So the basis of today's quiz We're naming Grizzlies players. So it's another name some dudes.
All right.
We're naming Grizzlies players and that have played at least 50 games for another team.
Okay.
So it's got every team on the list, and we're just going to name a Grizzly who played
50
there.
games for another team.
Yeah,
Okay.
at each stop. So
This might be rough, but here we go. Let's start.
I think it'll be easier than you're giving it credit for, but
Marc
let's
Gasol
do
off
it.
the rip. Did he play 50 games with Toronto?
Oh, for sure. Interesting decision to go Toronto
He did
first. He did not play 50 games for
No.
Toronto?
Well, there's also Mike Conley. We can just start with that. I feel like that's also a safe one. I spell it right?
Where are you ripping these? Okay, so it's going team by team.
Oh my God, it is.
So Grizzlies is first. So just
oh my
name
God, dude.
name someone who's only played for the Grizzlies. Don't overthink it. Ja.
All right.
We're gonna work together on this. What we got next?
All right.
Name the teams as we get them.
Kings.
Zach Randolph.
There we go. See, you didn't explain the rules to me.
I felt like I did, but let's keep going. Orlando Magic. Did Lawrence and Wright play in Orlando? Or am I imagining that?
Lorenzo who? Knight?
You want to move past that one?
Yeah, let's move past Orlando. Houston?
Houston.
Or someone recently, I think.
Why it was Stromile Swift the first name I thought of.
Who?
Did he play for Houston? Stromile Swift?
I have no idea.
Come on, man. Just type in Swift. Does that count? No?
There you go.
Oh, we got it.
Shane Battier was the obvious pick there.
Oh, yeah.
Connolly's the obvious pick here.
For Minnesota?
Yeah, I can just
Okay.
type last names, right?
Yes.
No.
Conley. Come on, man. I think you know that one.
Miami Heat,
Miami Heat.
pushing the beat.
Did he play in Miami?
I think he played in Miami.
You can rip it.
I don't know how to spell the beat.
Thabeet.
No.
You can always just rip guesses here, man.
We always could. I mean, you
Miami
want to just
and
go to another
Memphis.
team? Just start rattling off names here.
The point guard for the Heat championship teams, Mario Chalmers.
Oh.
He played for the Grizzlies and Heat.
Yeah.
Chalmers, yeah.
Did I spell it right?
Chalmers.
I didn't do the L.
All right, well, keyboard issues, I guess.
All right, no there?
No on that one?
No.
That doesn't make any sense.
Mario Shalom.
I know
There
for
it
a
is,
fact
there
he
it
played
is. I
more
put a
than
B
50
in it.
games. Okay. Next
Miller,
team.
Dude, how do we not get that?
Oh, Mike Miller would fit for Magic. Did we still miss Magic?
No. Yeah.
Rip him for the Magic.
Bang, there you go. Utah
Nice.
Jazz.
Conley would work again.
He would. I was going to say Rudy Gay. Didn't he
Oh,
play for
Rudy
the
Gay would
Jazz?
work too. If you want to get a different name in there.
Yeah. Damari Carroll. Talk about a throwback
Oh,
name there.
wow.
All right, Gasol right there. Bucks.
Bucks. Ooh. Nobody's coming right to mind.
Jared Bayless.
Rip it. 100% he played for both teams.
Boom.
Oh, yeah.
Clippers.
Clippers. Can we use Zebo again? Zach Randolph would work.
We just type in Randolph.
You just need last names, man.
I'm guessing he did. Did he play for them?
Oh, he definitely did.
already used him, so
we
we
might, yeah, might not be able to rip it twice.
Right, that's gonna hurt if we can. All right. Let's move past. Let's go to the Suns.
Suns.
I don't know if that's gonna help us either. We're getting down into it. I got a good.
I got one for the Pels.
All right, let's go Pels.
Valanciunas. Oh, are you gonna be able to spell that?
Let's hope Jonas works, damn it.
Valanciunas.
Hey.
Boom.
I got
Quincy Pondexter, what a name. Okay.
Kyle Lowry. There's no E. Does that not work? Or did he already count for something else?
Concerned about the spelling.
Lowry.
The spelling issues we're having over here.
Lowry. All right. Oh, he's already in here. He's in here for the Toronto Raptors. Dang.
Oh, man, we just got to get some of these guys out of the way. Let's see.
Denver Nuggets. Mavericks.
Mavericks, you could rip Vince Carter.
There you go.
Oh, that would have worked for Suns, too.
Rockets, we could have thought of Chandler Parsons.
Legend.
The GOAT. Trailblazers.
Trailblazers.
I mean, my bag is not this deep. Oh my God! Wait, I just started one for the Clippers. Dude. The Clippers. Wait.
C.J. Miles or Darius Miles?
Luke Kennard for the
I
Clippers.
confused those. Oh yeah, rip it.
Just got that. Who were you saying? For the Blazers?
Miles. I can't remember if it was Darius or C.J. Did that not work?
Miles did not work, and I think I spelled Miles right.
I think you did too.
Just a shot.
Okay, maybe I'm
We
mistaken
got
on that
4
one.
minutes. Lakers.
Oh man, I thought we would do better on this.
Maybe our bags aren't as deep as we thought. They would be.
Cavaliers, you can do Lorenzen Wright.
Right.
Right. Did that not work?
R-I-G-H-T, not W.
Oh no, it was WR.
He ain't coming up, Chief.
I wonder if they don't count if they're listed elsewhere.
Sixers.
But I don't see him anywhere else.
There we go.
Maurice Spates, legend.
Dude, you got no
Avery
Moses.
Bradley for Celtics?
Avery Bradley was here.
Wasn't he?
have no
Am I
idea.
confusing him with somebody else?
Why do we do Marcus Smart? That feels like an easier answer.
Oh yeah, that
he
makes
doesn't
sense
come
too.
up. He hasn't played 50 games.
Oh, it's gotta be 50 for the Grizzlies too.
No Bradley either. Yikes.
Let's see.
Mike Muscala ever play here?
I don't believe so.
He's usually a really good one on these.
Hawks, Sharif Abdur-Rahim.
He's in somewhere else. We're not
Is
going
he?
to use him. He's in for the Kings.
Oh, he is on the Kings. I didn't remember him as a King. Oh, jeez.
I mean, this has been Brooklyn
It's brutal.
Wizards.
Valanciunas would have worked there too. Well, no, he hasn't played it yet. Oh man, this is way harder than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Should we call time of death?
Yeah, I think we could probably wrap
We
it.
can probably call time of death.
We could probably wrap
Give
it
up.
up. It's probably gonna give you an ad. Oh no. Rip off some names that we missed.
Well, it has sponsored content. The circle's just rolling. We have the nice little fun circle of death.
Oh, okay. Well, that was a good
tried.
exercise
We tried.
in naming some
We saw
Grizzlies.
how
How many do we get? 12?
Yeah, but it's also weird because you
I
can't
thought we would
use
have done
other
better.
guys for different things.
Yeah, it seemed like some names were
Like
just
we could have banged
randomly-
out some others if it wasn't a weird thing. But
That
hey,
was a fun one though.
we gave it our best.
I liked that.
I did too.
That was good.
Anything else to add?
I think that'll wrap us up for this
I
week.
think that's all good for this week. Matt Infield will be back next week on Fast 5 Sports. Remember, Tigers are tomorrow, 6:30 at home. Get over to Liberty Bowl. Go see them play. Team's 5-1. They got things rolling. So, yeah, good high school games tonight. Make sure to tune in to Friday Football Fever. But that's all. We're signing off. For Jacob Gallant, I'm Griffin Demer.